Have you ever wanted to use one of these in one of these with one of these? I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. You know all the things to do, but the one thing you can't do is put an e-reader into the analog pocket. No matter how hard you push, it's not going to fit. But there is a solution. Thanks to the ingenious Brian Hargrove, I have a little device here that's going to make the impossible possible. And I'm going to unbox it right now. What we have is an e-extender. E-reader? E-extender. It gets right to the point. It is what it says, and what it does is it converts your analog pocket into something that can use the e-reader accessory by extending the length of the cartridge slot. Now, I'm sure there are a million different things you could do with it, but it's designed specifically for this purpose, so that's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to put it on the back of the analog pocket, and for the first time ever, I'll be able to use my e-reader with the pocket. Which is funny because when the pocket was in development and in such high demand, they claimed that everything that worked with a Game Boy Advance would work with a pocket, yet they didn't account for the fact there was no way to plug the e-reader into the pocket. Well, thankfully the aftermarket does what Analogue don't. I guess that could be an excuse to play the Genesis does what Nintendo don't drop, but I won't. Let's just go ahead and read some cards. I've got the brand new e-reader cards that I showed off in a previous video here. So I'm scanning in eSnake. 2 cards, 2 sides. And as you can see, the process is going nice and smoothly on the pocket. Used to have to do this with a Game Boy Advance, one that I had modified with a backlit screen. But now I can do it with something that's completely rechargeable and has a very nice crisp screen to begin with. No modding required because it just came like that. Would that the Analogue 3D was as easy to acquire as the Analog Pocket, but that just seems to be endlessly delayed anymore. I don't know if we're ever going to see that thing. I suppose Analog has shipped everything else they've ever made before that we've paid for, so I should have some faith, but the delays are frustrating. And that last press release they sent out really read like it was written by AI and not a human being. Speaking of games made by human beings, eSnake. It's a fun game. It's simple, but it's a new e-reader card game in 2025, along with all the other ones that came in this pack. And the success of it leads me to think that even more are going to be made. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming down the pipeline. Funny enough, just the other day I saw somebody who was working on Balatro for the e-reader had actually open sourced it to the community, and they had developed a full GBA game. Now obviously that's too big for e-reader cards, but at the same time, it's impressive that they were able to get a fully functional port working. I was very happy to see that. Let's try some other e-reader cards, some stuff that I didn't show off when I opened the new pack of cards. This is a very old pack from original stock back in the day that I've had ever since they first came out. Clu Clu Land. Playable on Game Boy Advance thanks to the e-reader cards. It's kind of weird that you only have to scan 9 sides, not 10, not 8, not 6. An uneven number. You scan 9 sides to get all of the data. Now you still need 5 cards, so I don't know what difference it makes. Every one of these is 5 cards, whether you read all sides of them or one side of the final card. I guess my only gripe about e-reader cards is the same as it was back in the day. When you've read in 9 or 10 cards and you're told that you can either play it by saving it or keep the game that you already have on there, it would have been nice to have a little more memory in the e-reader so that you weren't limited to just one game, because it's not that scanning in the cards is unpleasant. It would just be nice to save more than one game to play instead of only being forced to pick one game at a time. They could have made it a little more convenient. That would be an interesting aftermarket idea if somebody could invent a memory upgrade for e-readers so you could save 2 or 3 card games after you read them in instead of just one. Now, this was just for my amusement. I knew it wouldn't do anything without being linked to Animal Crossing via GBA link cable to a GameCube. However, it's nice that they still put a message in there. It obviously wasn't going to play Ice Climber, because you would need a full set of cards for that, but at least it tells you something when you scan the card, even if you're not linked up to Animal Crossing, so that you can get the game in the mail as a gift. And it's even more amusing that he says you can't get something for nothing, because in Animal Crossing, that's exactly what you get, something for nothing. You just read in the card and you get to play Ice Climber on an NES in your home. Let's try another card. I love the fact that these cards do something outside of Animal Crossing. This one actually plays a tune. Now, if you scanned it with the game linked up, you'd get that tune available as your town's theme song. You could change it from the one it currently is to that. Or you can make your own. That's always been a Animal Crossing staple, is composing your own town tune. But once again, let's try another card here. I've got this air hockey card, and I remember this was a promotional deal. I just don't remember what the promotion was. Were they inserted into issues of Nintendo Power? Were these given away at Toys R Us? Did they come with the e-reader when I bought it? I think that's the most likely of the scenarios. I think they gave you a couple of cards with the system itself. So I'm assuming this and Manhole were the ones that came in the bundle with the e-reader. Wish I still had the box it came in, but hey, at least I've still got the e-reader after all these years. Maybe I'll find the box somewhere. But it's just air hockey. It's literally a game you've played at Dave & Buster's before, or any kind of arcade with, you know, entertainment other than video games, like table games and coin pushers. You'll find something like air hockey there. I've always enjoyed air hockey. It's not quite the same experience to play it on a Game Boy Advance or an Analog Pocket, but it sounds pretty good, and the physics are good, so I give them credit for the design, even though there's not the physical appeal of slamming a puck across an air jet like it is when you play it in the arcade. And this is Manhole, a famous Game & Watch game, with 2 variants on the card, which is why you had to scan in both sides, I guess. Here's a Machop card from Pokemon, and these are the ones that sadly I have the fewest of, because Pokemon was already pretty hot at the time, and getting packs of the Animal Crossing cards was hard, and getting Pokemon cards with the e-reader codes was even harder. The only ones that I ever really managed to get were the Nintendo game cards. Those didn't seem to sell as well as the others. Basically, it was hit or miss when I would go to a GameStop if they'd even have packs of anything at all, and if they did, there were usually only 1 or 2 left. They never seemed to print enough, and then they claimed it wasn't a success. Well, the cards were always sold out when I tried to get them, so clearly it was a success with the people who did buy an e-reader, because we wanted the cards. The cards were just hard to get, or at least they were for me. But here you get a little mini game that's only accessible if you scan in the side of Machop, Machamp, and Machoke. If you have all 3 of those cards and you scan those sides, you get this Machop training game where there's giant rocks falling from the mountainside, and he has to crush them to stay alive. I'd like to thank Brian again for making this extender. He's not going to have stock available all the time, but I'll put a link to his Ko-fi if you want to find out more. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching.